right, a very warm welcome back and good morning from wherever you're watching us from. This is Metropole TV, your #1 premier business channel in East and Central Africa. All right, so this morning on our economic review segment, we have Mr. Ogwang Omuga, an intellectual property expert. But before we move on to that, we have a quote by one of our coaches who had come into the studio some time back, and it says, Aliko Dangote's Baba is a Baba. The Baba on your street is also a Baba. Sounds funny, right? Yeah. So it is not what you do that matters, but who you do it for and how you do it. You make money by solving the right problem for the right customer. Joseph interpreted dreams for co-prisoners. He remained in prison. He interpreted the king's dream. He moved to the palace. Business is warfare, so stop doing it like your next door neighbor. You must be strategic in your approach. Knowledge is not power. There are many knowledgeable but powerless people around. There is a vital force of intelligence in you, and the inspiration of the God in you gives you understanding so you can correctly apply that which you know. It is not what you know that stands you out, but what you correctly apply. Nobody gets paid for what they know anyway. You get paid for what you do right. Today, you are blessed and surrounded with favor. Divine influence is producing advantage, acceptance, and favor for you. Remember, God first, make money, and don't stop. You are too blessed to be stressed. Have a great Thursday ahead.
That coach should be my coach.
Whoa.
I need a coach.
Dr. Shugu all the way from Nigeria. He's watching, man.
Doctor, you should be my coach.
All right. Karibu sana, Mr. Ogwang Omuga.
Good morning, Tabi.
Good morning to you. Nice to have you.
Nice to be with you. Nice to
First
be with
time,
you.
yeah?
First time. I'm always with Simba, the guy who bites me down.
And Ondiro and Ingrid once in a while.
Yes.
But today being the World International Volunteers Day, I'm volunteering to do the show.
I'm equally volunteering. And I'll try to find someone, any person out there that today I might serve. On voluntary basis.
And just make it memorable.
I don't want to make it memorable. I just want to make it voluntary.
Wow. All right. Okay, so let's get rolling on business issues affecting Kenya's economy. Okay. Now, Moses Kuria's public debt inquiry bid shut down. Now, the House Business Committee, the top decision-making organ of the National Assembly, has shut down attempts by Gatundu South Member of Parliament, Moses Kuria, to set up a special committee to probe the country's ballooning public debt. Speaker Justin Muturi, who chairs the House Business Committee, declined to approve request by Mr. Kuria to establish a 15-member ad hoc committee on public debt situation in Kenya. Now, the committee was to inquire into the rising state debt, which stands at 6 trillion Kenya shillings. The debt rose from 1.8 trillion Kenya shillings only in June 2013. Now, Parliament has since approved increase of public debt ceiling to 9 trillion Kenya shillings. According to Justin Muturi, he is inclined to decline to approve the notice of motion to establish a select committee to inquire into public debt. Now, the House Business Committee is of the view that this matter perfectly falls under mandate of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. Now, Mr. Ogwang, do we really need a special committee to probe the country's ballooning public debt?
Do we really need? I would say yes, we do. Yes, we do, because we have a trend, especially in Kenya, where most of people that we have positioned at points of decision making are not only moral, they are not ethical, and they are not guided by good judgment. So to that extent, I would equally think that we need people to check our debt policy. But the question that I would wish to ask, and this is the question that even coming from what you're asking, is that aren't they there? Are they not there? Are they not meant to be there?
Exactly. Because what is the role of the government advisors?
Government advisors are just advisors. You know, I can just advise you, but you are not bound by duty to follow what I advise. And even as we are looking at the executive have come up with this reputation about them that they don't want to be guided. They don't want to be advised. So you can advise them formally that, hey, this is my advice as far as fiscal policies or economic policies are concerned. This is my advice as far as legal systems are concerned. But I'm not duty bound to go by their advice. But what I would really wish we could ask ourselves is, how have we distinguished ourselves as a nation? That this is what is informing our national debt policy. That as a nation, we would wish to distinguish ourselves amongst our peer as an entrepreneurial nation. So that even as we take debt and even as we go out and as we are looking for credit facility from international bodies, is that informed by an embedded national debt policy? That the reason why we are asking is because we wish to be, they call it a double-digit economy. A double-digit economy on which front? Is it a double-digit economy as we are a consuming nation? And so the reason why what informs our debt is we wish to consume. And that one is not sustainable. That one is only getting us deeper and deeper in debt. The conversation, and this is what I think we should be having at a point of policy. Why have we distinguished ourselves? And is our debt, national debt policy, that which informs us to access credit facility? Is it to come and make our country, Kenya, an entrepreneurial country, a consuming country, or whichever wish, or what they wish to define it as? Yes, Tabby.
Because no, my issue is, we set up this committee. They still need to be paid.
Yes.
And where does that money come from?
That money
from
is
the
there.
Taxpayer.
No, that money is there.
No, where is it coming from? If not from the taxpayer, Mr. Ogwang.
Tabby,
yeah.
In as much as it's an instrumentation of government, that money is always there. Government has deep pockets, and for such and such, they will always find money somewhere. And even money to meet this 15-member committee is only sitting allowance, which sitting allowance is only 15,000. That's 225,000. And if 225,000, these people sit for only 2 weeks, that's close to 1.4 million. 1.4 million will not dent our economy. The major part is, even as they are coming about and even as they are developing this report, I wish what should inform that report is it time that we defined ourselves as a nation? The point whereby Singapore distinguished itself, they said that at some point in time, Kenya and Singapore were at the same footing. But Singapore defined itself that we want to be an entrepreneurial economy, we want to be a producing economy. So that one informs everything. That one informs their education policies. That one informs everything, their legal systems, because they have defined themselves as, we want to be a producing economy. But when it comes to Kenya, we are just borrowing, and this is how we say it. We wish to meet our development agenda. Yes. So
the SDG.
Yes. So this development agenda has not been defined. Is it a development agenda that we are an adolescent nation, or is it a development agenda that we wish to put this kind of thought and line of thinking in our people, that today, moving forward, Kenya is a producing economy? Yes.
And just to be a little bit naive, government has pockets where it can get some money from it to cater for this 15 committee member.
Yes.
Yeah? But why can't it get this money to repay our debts?
Because
look at Russia. Yeah, we came back with loans.
Yes.
Each and every country, we have loans here and there, Ogwang. So why can't this government just sit down and say, from our pockets? Because from our pockets, you can pay this 15 committee member. Look at CS Munya the other day. They were saying they would rather come up with a body that can investigate Kenya National Bureau of Standards, right? Just to come up with a different body from what Kenya National Bureau of Standards has been doing. What's the importance of that in the first place?
Actually, to the extent Munya pronounced himself to that level, that I need someone to investigate a parastatal within my ministry.
It does not. Okay, does it even make sense in the first
to that
place?
extent, Munya is indicting himself as incompetent. Munya is trying to tell us in very many words that you guys, nimeshindwa to regulate my parastatals. You don't need, like if I go ask my neighbor, hey, I don't trust my kids. Would you come and investigate my son for me?
Exactly. And I think the same case applies also with CS Agriculture, Kionjori, when he said, no, the food irrigation board, imeshindwa na kazi, let us set up another one.
Yes.
So it can be putting our food safe.
That's indictment equally on Kiunjuri that he's incompetent. You know, especially when you're at a point of decision making, you really need to watch what you utter, because what you utter can actually paint you and can actually create an impression around you that you are incompetent or there are people who you are working under their mercies. So the reason why you're coming out that, hey, you guys, please come help us, I'm feeling I cannot manage my parastatals.
Exactly.
You are the line minister, and as a line minister, they need to toe your line. Yes, Tabi.
All right, so maybe we can, the same sentiments that I have for CS Munya and no Kionjori, it's the same thing with these 15 ad hoc committee, 15 board members. I feel it's the same thing.
No, it wouldn't be the same thing because Parliament is legislative.
Okay.
And when it comes to legislation, Parliament does not enter into matters of policy. Policy is purely from the executive arm of government. It is the president to define. This is what, in my administration, this is what will inform our borrowing. In our administration and in our government operations, we are reading from this handbook. And the handbook is, even as we want to make Kenya a double-digit economy, we would equally wish that in that defining and in us distinguishing ourselves to that level, then we need to be producing country. We need to start with, then, if we are to access debt, then from whom and what type of debt? Because debt, you might not necessarily need money. You can have debt in other ways, that if we want to grow our economy, then we identify we need equally to grow the threshold and our performance on technology. Then we ask, then instead of us accessing money, can we access alternative debts? Because this alternative debt is informed with our charter. It's informed with our debt policies in place, and that is within the purview of the executive, not the purview of the legislator. As a legislature, what they want to do is to come and to counter-check, to put the executive in place. Because from what Moses Kuria is saying, Moses Kuria is trying to bring in this position that the executive is not being checked. And someone needs to check the executive, and he's trying to hide under parliamentary privileges that, hey, you guys, we think we need to, an ad hoc committee to check the executive, to check our borrowing.
And also, I don't feel it makes sense because he's also the chairman, rather, he's also a member of the public financial something committee.
Sure.
Now I feel, because now his concerns, or rather, let's look at what are Kuria's concerns, because he had already sought the speaker's permission to establish the ad hoc committee to investigate and inquire into borrowing trend by the government in the past 20 years. What might be his concerns?
Because the past 20 years, we are trying to get as far back as Moi's time. Now, those are successive administrations. But the good thing with this is that regardless of what administration is in place, government is the same. So Moses Kuria is trying to look at, can we stretch this thing as far back as 20 years? But I would ask Moses Kuria, why not go all the way to Jomo Kenyatta's time? Because we have succeeded an inadequacy in administration. And this that we have inherited starts all the way from Mzee Jomo Kenyatta's time. That if we look at Mzee Jomo Kenyatta's time, what informed their economic policies? Was it even informed? Or was it a point of whereby, you guys, let's just hold some of these resources for ourselves because we don't know even why we are in power? if we want, and Moses Kure is very much in order, what we really need, and I wish this conversation was coming from the executive, what we really need is a public debt charter. Call it a charter, call it policy, whatever you wish to call it. We just need a document that informs our economic policies, a document that informs our foreign policies, a document that even informs our regional engagements. Because as at now, Rwanda has taken the front.
Exactly. It has really overcome us.
And we need to have this conversation that as a people, what informs our education policies? As a people, what informs our agricultural policies? Because as at now, we are just consuming. I'm wondering that we have floods everywhere. Why are we not harvesting water? Because this water that is actually flooding the people and taking lives and messing up with property, it only comes indirectly to show us that, hey, you guys, we don't have water harvesting policies in place.
In the country, because these are water harvesting issues, the floods issue, it's something that has been ongoing. Each and every season we have heavy rainfalls. It's the same thing. It's something that should have been established a long time ago.
From Kenyatta's time. From Kenyatta's time. There's a book I'm reading from the autobiography of the leader of, is it Senegal? This country that I mentioned. Yes, we'll just remember it. That book, they are trying to say that when the gentleman came into power, he designed a policy to distinguish Singapore. To distinguish Singapore, that as Singapore, we are going to be a producer. And as a producer, we will need that to inform everything that we do from our education. Because the gateway to this problem that we have, Moses Kure is trying to address, starts with education. Because even in our education policies, we are not taught to be producers. You know, even in our own religious policies, we are not taught to be producers. So we need, in my own opinion, we need to come up with a national policy that would inform everything that we do. Vision 2030 is not enough. Agenda 4 is not enough.
Wow.
Yes,
wow. Excellent. So moving on, jobs in telco sector increased by 23.8%. Now, new jobs in the mobile telecommunications sector increased at the fastest rate in 5 years. Now, this is a rare bright spot in a corporate Kenya that has been shedding jobs and freezing new hirings Now, according to data from the Communications Authority of Kenya, telecommunication firms, including Safaricom, Airtel, and Telcom Kenya, added 1,673 new jobs to their payroll in the year to June, reflecting a 23.8% jump. Now, the regulator linked the increase in new jobs to growth and new investments in the sector that saw 5 firms inject 57.5 billion Kenya shillings into expanding their businesses, including network upgrades, up from 41.8 billion shillings. The 5 firms registered as mobile telecommunication firms, including Mobile Pay and Equity Banks, FinServ Limited, registered a combined revenues of 270.5 billion Kenya shillings in the year to June, up from 247.3 billion shillings. Now, this is a new twist, Mr. Ogwang. In the recent months, we have been seeing top companies putting on hold the hiring of new staff in an economy that has also witnessed a string of job losses affecting nearly all sectors. Now, the growth of jobs in the telecommunication sector might have little impact on Kenya's job markets, given its share of the country's gross domestic product, which has been shrinking in recent years. In the absence of M-Pesa, it controls 0.8% of Kenya's annual economic output compared to the dominant sectors of the economy such as agriculture, which account for 34.2% of GDP, transport 8%, manufacturing 7.7%, and real estate 7%. But what does this really mean? Is the telcos sector doing way much better than the top companies?
What this actually means is that there is a shift in markets, and there's a shift in what I would call as alternative sectors in our economy. Even if agriculture according to what you have said, agriculture moves 30-something% in our economy. But how do they transact? They transact largely on M-Pesa.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you're constructing today and you need to pay your lineman and your foreman, how will you pay them? You'd hardly pay them through a bank transaction. It's just M-Pesa. The same with tourism. If I need to engage a tours and travel company, I'll pay them through M-Pesa. So the problem that we are faced with in our economy is that we had built on what actually in the past was called traditional avenues of employment. And traditional avenues of employment was agriculture, right? Another one was tourism. And just like you have mentioned them. But today, how is the performance of agriculture? If we look at our economy, and our economy is 3-point-something trillion, yes, that is our budget. So which means we need to identify that as an indicator of our economic performance. So we are saying that 3-point-something trillion, but M-Pesa in a year, money changing hands is to the tune of 9 trillion. Yes, changing hands between people, it's 9 trillion. So that one is even 3 times more than our economy. So that one moves in to say that there is something that our markets are telling us, that as people who sit at some of this policy table, we have not come to speed with. That our markets are telling us that the traditional avenues of employment are not guaranteeing us. They are not delivering. You know, so this is a very good thing. At least 1,673,000 people, 1,673 people have new jobs. I just hope it's meaningful employment, because employment, you know, there's this thing that, oh, we have employed people. So the question is it meaningful engagement in employment? Or it could be, we have just engaged people. So if I engage you and I pay you 26,000 a month, then I'm not meaningfully engaging you. Yes. So and the problem with some of these telcos, if they say that Airtel and Telecom have engaged new people, the last time I checked, Telecom was laying away.
Was laying off workers,
500 people. You know, so this is contradictory. So the only thing that Telecom has done is Telecom has engaged some young boys in the streets, those that approach you like, hey, we have a new T-shirt. Would you want this new T-shirt? So that is not meaningful engagement. Yes, because that gentleman,
at the end of the day, you're still not going to pay them up to par. This is 1,673 jobs. These are 3 telcos, and even more. But you saying that, yes, you have employed them, and you're laying off 500 workers. How much are you going to be paying this?
I wish this number was broken down for us to understand. Of the 1,673 people, these are the engineers. No, these are the engineers. And engineers is, we have engaged them based on their skill. We have engaged them based on their expertise. So you just don't tell me 1,000. Could this be people in sales promotion? You know, and sales promotion, you're not engaged fundamentally out of your expertise. You're just engaged on, hey, endo onge na watu, and endo onge na watu, now you're being paid on commission. So that one means it's on performance, not on your skill. So I wish this number was this 1,600. These are the engineers, these are the coders that we have engaged, these are the finance experts that we have engaged, these are the legal personnel that we have engaged in our structures. These are, you know, those are highly skilled. So that from that, then we can come up with an understanding that even as we are moving into this new economy, these are the kind of people that we need. These are the kind of people, and that that data informs even institutions of learning. Yes, Tabitha.
All right, very comprehensive, Mr. Ogwang. And for now, I would like to take a very short break, and I will resume with 2 more reviews to go over with Mr. Ogwang.
Thank you.
So we take a short break. Business AM. We'll be right back.